Between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Hello everyone and welcome to AOC's Gaming's League of Champions Season 2 powered by VRRC. You're here to witness the second round of the first championship of the League of Champions. My name is Jack Oliphant and alongside me as ever for these championships is Dave Marshall. Dave, how the devil are you?
Yeah, I'm doing rather well, thanks Jack. Hope you're doing well yourself, and yeah, really looking forward to tonight. First round with the ballast on board, so it's really going to be an interesting watch.
Yeah, exactly, and I know you've been doing a lot of work with the ballast, haven't you? So hopefully Mugello will show that your hard work comes to fruition in making an exciting and equal championship race. I'm sure it will do. Obviously, we've got 2 rounds here this evening, a 15-minute qualifying to start with, plus a 20-minute race for race 1, and then a 20-minute race for race 2, and I believe, Dave, it's a top 10 reverse grid.
It is, yeah, top 10 reverse grid, 30 kilograms with a max ballast.
Exactly that. So I think we can probably jump to what is the League of Champions. And Dave, you're going to talk us through it a little bit, aren't you?
Yeah, so basically League of Champions consists of 4 individual championships. Each of them have 4 rounds. So we're on the second round at the moment at Mugello in the Ginetta Super Cup. As you can see there, we go to Imola next and Portimao. Each individual championship has its own prize pool. So not just the overall league. So first prize you get our wonderful SR5 chassis in either red, blue or black. second place is SR3 chassis, and then third place is our brand new seats. For fourth and eighth place is a membership for our virtual reality racing. So each championship has that, but then also at the end we hold 2 grand finale races at the end of the league, which is all 4 championships added together. Split 1, which is 1st to 10th place, goes into a end draw. First place will come out of that with an AccuForce V2 Pro Direct Drive wheel. Second, a set of OBP hydraulic pedals. Third, a 34-inch AOC gaming curved display. And then race 2, which is 11th down to 20th place, gets the same prizes that we offer for our mini championships, e.g. SR5, SR3 and GT1 F1. But any of our drivers within this whole championship that don't score any nice prizes that we've got on offer, go into then a draw for a set of top-of-the-range OBP hydraulic pedals. So really, if you enter this championship, there's a good chance you're going to come away with something, Jack.
Yeah, there is, and another feature that maybe adds to that is the fact that we have driver of the rounds, don't we? Which Rich came in right at the end of last week and introduced to us. And essentially, what this is you get the Power Max Valeting Pack for whoever wins driver of the round. Now, it doesn't have to be the person who won the most races or scored the most points or championship leader or anything. It can just be someone who's really improved. It can be someone who maybe comes from the back and powers through the field quite a lot, makes some fantastic moves, is just always involved with the action, anything like that. And that is decided by the lovely 2 commentators, which obviously is myself and Dave. And I believe we want to have your sort of feedback in the chat as well, maybe who you vote for driver of the day, who should we be thinking about for those sort of things as well. And also, if you've got any opinions on the liveries, on the drivers, any fantastic moves, who you're supporting, anything like that, then please do let us know all your opinions in the chat as well. It's lovely to have a read through, and obviously when we come back to it afterwards, we always try and reply to as much as possible, as long as there's not too much action going out there on track. And well, speaking of action going out on track, we have got a slight small delay as we jump into the server, but I believe there are a few drivers out there making laps at the moment. So Dave, why don't you talk us through potentially what's happened since race 1, i.e. the ballast?
Yeah, so we went with a slightly different ballast system for League of Champions 2. We went from to a 30 kilogram ballast system. As you can see there, Ryan Elliot scoring particularly well in the first round, came away with a commanding point lead there on 37 points, 30 kilograms. But as you see, as you get down the grid, the gap in the actual ballast slightly reduces, so it should mean that going towards the end of the season, that sort of top spot we might see a little bit of strategy happening there, Jack. Maybe a driver who goes, you know what, I don't know whether I want maximum ballast going to that last round, and I only have to drop 3 or 4 places, and then straight away that halves the amount of ballast I have to carry. So we might see a little bit of strategy there. But I worked this out where I wanted the ballast to be worth around 0.4 of a second, and in testing, first and second drive was separated by 0.401. So I'm going to take that. I'm very happy about the testings worked out well, and let's hope it makes for a very interesting race.
About 4 minutes it took you to drop that one in. I know you were very proud of it, weren't you?
Well, Jimmy, within 1,000.
Yeah, to be fair, it's pretty damn good. I will give you that one. We also have a bit more. One last little plug to be giving you in as well. It's about the VRRC academy, basically, isn't it? And this is almost an entry style championships with a bit of driver coaching chucked in there for those of you who maybe don't necessarily think you can quite hack it with the likes of Callum Newsham, Max Edmundson, Ryan Elliot and all those sort of things as well. This is a championship that is a bit more of an introduction, and it comes with some of the sort of most well-rounded cars that you can ask for as well. Formula 4, Audi TT Cup, Mazda MX-5 and the Caterhams. And every single one of those cars you'll learn something different. In the Mazdas, it's all about minimal speed and sort of you and the car. In the Caterhams, it's all about sliding tyres, downforce in the Formula 4, sorry, and obviously in the TTs it's more touring car style driving. So there's something for everyone in these cars and this academy, so do have a look on our website for any more that you may be wanting to have a look at if you want to jump into that championship. And I believe qualifying is coming live now, Dave.
It is indeed, and I believe we've got a hot laps video before we jump in straight into quali. So here's my attempt of trying to show you how to go around this challenging track at Mugello. So this is your onboard lap of Mugello circuit. We're going to grab 5th gear as we go across the line down towards turn 1. We're going to be around 150 mile an hour before we touch the brakes here. See how late and aggressive we are on the brakes. Into turn 1, a little bit of snap oversteer there, mid-corner, nicely across to the right hand side of the track. Into the turn 2 complex, not trying to run it as too far wide there because you don't want to make this corner too tight. See the car's fighting a little bit there for grip there. Down towards turn 4 and 5. Yet again, not running it too quick in so you can get nice drive through the exit of turn 5 using a nice bit of exit there. Into turn 6, a really difficult corner. Not trying to use too much speed on entry there, but you could see how blind it was as the ground drops away. And this is a case of bottle up through turn 8, trying to keep on that throttle there. Here I had a little bit of a lift there, and same again into turn 9. See, just trying to look over the crest and trying to decide how much throttle you can stay on. Into turn 10, yet again, same as turns 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. It's all about not running too much speed into them chicanes and you know, making the exit too tight for yourself. A really long hairpin here, another for me quite a good overtaking opportunity, being committed on the brakes on the entry there, and you know there's not really a chance to get back at them because this chicane is completely flat as soon as you're on the right line. And then up towards turn 15, the last corner of the lap, this is always the one where you'll be tempted to do an overtake, but you've got to bear in mind, you throw an overtake in this last corner, it's going to leave you as a sitting duck coming across the start-finish line with how long the straight is and the slipstream and opportunity for turn 1, and then job will be done. And there we go, we're coming across the line to finish my hot lap of Mugello. Jack, as you can see, it's quite a demanding track there. It's quite nervous in the car. What's your thoughts on overtakes around this track? I think I've discussed this with you before. It's not going to be the easiest of tracks to get past, is it?
It isn't, no, and you're right. You said while we were just having a chat there, whilst you were guiding us through that lovely lap of Mugello, that it was quite a nervous track. The car was a little bit nervous coming out of a lot of the corners, wasn't it? And I think that's going to cause a little bit of havoc with drivers who are maybe going side by side out of corners. Maybe someone's lunged into the inside of one. Been a very brave move, whether it's outside or inside here, like you've just hinted on. But then if they're coming out side by side, a little bit of nervous, a little bit of a rear slide, you could end up making contact, and even inadvertently, couldn't you? So with any luck, we'll see people a little bit more composed. But what it is really important to do then is highlight the fact that qualifying is going to be crucial, because yes, you may have good racecraft and everything like that, but maybe if you don't have the hot lap pace around a track like this, you can really suffer from that. I suppose it's a little bit more like Monaco, which obviously the F1 is shooting to this weekend, where qualifying is probably more important than your racecraft.
Yeah, definitely that. I mean, you know, it's a very different track to Monaco regarding how wide it is, and it makes you think you can do overtakes everywhere. But you're right in what you say. It's one of them tracks where track position here in qualifying is going to be quite crucial. I think the main key overtaking point for me is definitely down to turn 1, Jack. A lot of slipstream, and as I mentioned in the hot lap video, you know, you want to make sure that you're not putting an overtake on in the last corner, otherwise it'll bite you coming down that main straight. The driver will get back in his slipstream and he'll probably put a lunge on going into turn 1. So turn 1, definite clear overtaking opportunity. But then, you know, the likes of turn 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, you know, two sort of long chicanes, very, very easy to run too quick into the first left-hander and leave the right-hander too tight. And all it takes is that momentum change and the driver behind will have the run. So it's one of them. As long as you drive within yourself, keep the car flowing nicely, you're not running too quick into corners, it makes it incredibly hard for the driver behind to get past.
Well, it's all about flow and rhythm here, isn't it, really? And there's that age-old saying in racing, you know, slow in, fast out, and that is extremely important when you're talking about the last corner. Like you said, the last thing you want to do is be slow out of that last corner. It's arguably the most important corner on the entire circuit, because you are flat out for the longest amount of time. And you're right with those chicanes, really shortly after that turn 1, you know, if you end up losing the position, it's very hard to try and attack that position and gain it back, because the last thing you need to do is ruin your run for the rest of the lap. And it's also quite important in qualifying that you get a little bit of free space, like traffic free, because it's not that easy to make someone move out of the way. It's not that easy to just overtake them because they're slowing you up either. So what we're seeing at the moment is a lot of drivers trying to keep a couple of tenths ahead of each, sort of apart from each other. But as we look on board from Jordan Brennan's perspective, who's on provisional pole at the moment by a tenth of a second, 2 drivers ahead of him, extremely close. And look there, you can already see that they're scuppering each other's laps just by trying to let each other back through, aren't they? Whereas Jordan Brennan, he's in a nice little slipstream going on to the start-finish straight, and already the gap is just closing and closing because they overtook each other. All of a sudden, he's nearly on the back bumper. Another driver letting him go as well, just about does well to avoid him. But that is how crucial it is to sort of keep the rhythm going. As soon as you lose that little bit of rhythm and momentum, you're right back into the clutches of somebody else, and a huge snapper oversteer there in correction means that the gold cars have to run wide.
Yeah, and actually I think that was a bit of a shame for Jordan there. I think that was about the right gap for where, you know, if he was in tuck behind that car coming around that last corner, that would have been a lovely tow for Jordan there all the way to the line. But you can see here, first, second, third, it's not the drivers that were running right at the front in the last round, so the weight is really playing a part here early on into this qualifying session. We're seeing Callum Newsham there, who's sitting third in the championship, 4th place. Ryan Elliot with maximum weight on board, down in 5th place. And actually Max Edmundson, who is 2nd place in the championship, is down in 11th place. So I believe that was one of the drivers who saw go slightly wide as Jordan Brennan came through. So he'd be definitely looking to put that back into the pits and get back out and try and get back up that board. As we said, this is not a track where you don't want a good qualifying.
Yeah, it's not easy in the slightest. And, well, let's have a little bit of a think back to Misano then, Dave, because obviously we were talking about the racing and maybe what we came to expect before that round. Well, we might as well talk about it, what we come to expect before this round as well. It was quite dicey. Obviously, the winners really walked away with it due to the fact that Callum Newsham had a pit stop in the first race, didn't he? Which I think meant Ryan Elliot just walked away with it. And in the second race, because he had that forced pit stop after jumping the start, Callum Newsham started at the front of the order, and once he got into the race lead, he just drove away by about 8 seconds. So the race wins were fairly simple, but everything apart from that was very hard fought.
Yeah, you're right. The race wins were fair easy. As you said, Callum Newsham had a bit of a disaster, if I'm honest. You know, that jump start, meaning they had to do the drive-through, that really hindered him. And he had the pace to really perform last round, and he'll be kicking himself that he didn't manage to convert that into possibly the championship lead going into round 2. But as you see, he's sitting there in 4th place. It's a good, solid qualifying at the moment, but look at how close it is. You know, less than a tenth to second. Maxi Rohrig, there's a driver to talk about as well. He'll have a bone to pick with the Max Edmundson coming out into round 2 here. There was a little bit of a tussle going to one of the corners. You know, Maxi, don't think was particularly happy about how it went down. But the thing is, he's proven it on track here. He's sitting 2nd at the moment. Max Edmundson, who he had the little coming together with, is down 11th. So if Max Edmundson gets up near that, will we see that sort of re-emerge here in round 2? I mean, I'll be quite excited to see that. I don't know about you, Jack, but, you know, it's all that drama. It's what motorsport's about, isn't it?
It is, exactly, yeah. Maxi Rohrig's only got 12 kilograms on board, whereas Edmundson's got 24, so literally double what Rohrig's got. And I suppose that there was a little bit of a spice element to it, wasn't it? And we tried to sort of drag it out the drivers a little bit in the post-race interviews as well at the end of the night. But that really just sets a fire in the stomach, in the belly of the drivers, doesn't it? When you sort of have those little incidents, it makes you almost more driven that you want to beat that driver. So maybe Maxi Rohrig can put a little bit more time in the sim to try and take advantage of the fact that he's got half the weight of Edmundson on board and really put him in his place, score those championship points, you know, get on those podium positions where he felt like he deserved to be, but maybe he got conned out of it slightly. Whereas Edmundson, it'll be music to Maxi's ears, the fact that Edmundson is all the way down in now 11th place actually. So it's that sort of spice that adds to these sort of championships, and what's keeps people coming back, you know, it's the fact that yes, the racing may be virtual, but it's still just as alive in the stomachs of these drivers, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, it's one thing to have drivers entering championships and driving around the track, but if a bit of that personality comes out in the way they drive and adds to the championship, you look at British touring cars, you've got the likes of Plato. Unfortunately, Neil isn't in it obviously this year. You know, I'm not saying obviously Max is nearly as aggressive or vocal as what Plato is, but he definitely came up behind Maxi. He went, right, this moves on. I've put my nose there. Maxi closed the gap and paid the price. You know, these things do happen. Will we see, you know, Maxi have a bit of retaliation, or is Maxi's driving style not necessarily that? Is his personality more like, right, I'm just going to do him on outright pace here, see whether the weight advantage going my way will play, you know, into the advantage in this round, and just drive away, you know, because of the difference in pace? We'll wait and see, but I like that bit of personality in the driving style, and it really adds to the championship, I think.
It does indeed, yeah. One driver that we haven't really mentioned that much, but is pretty obviously on pole position at the moment, is Jordan Brennan. Now, he's got 0 kilograms on board. He sits in 16th place in the championship. He's got a lot to prove here, hasn't he? And he's going to be very keen to try and keep this pole position. A 10th and a half ahead of Maxi Ruhrig. If anything, he keeps extending that gap. It was 600 just a lap or two ago. And obviously, you know, you're looking at the other championship contenders, the likes of Callum Newsham and Ryan Elliot. They're currently 5th and 6th, nearly 3 to 4.5 tenths down. It's a huge slide, a bit of a correction, but he's enjoying this this Mugello circuit, isn't he?
I mean, I don't know whether that was enjoyment or just clearly holding onto the car, I think, Jack. Yeah, I mean, for me, Mugello, it's one of them tracks where we've talked about before, is all about momentum. And you can go on one of them fast laps and really think you're driving the absolute wheels off the car. You know, you're getting on 100% throttle super early, driving it through the corner, and then you finish the lap and you're 8 tenths off the best lap you've done. And it's, you know, a good 40% less throttle than your previous lap. And yeah, that was faster. It's one of them tracks where it's very, very, very easy to overdrive the car and end up with losing time because you're trying to run that much speed in the corners rather than just letting the car settle, blending into the throttle nice and early, getting the car settled. That's what it's going to take. So a driver who's maybe a little bit nervous or trying to get a bit too much out of the car is going to really struggle at this track.
He is indeed, yeah. So we're now currently having a look at Scott Bugner, and a driver who I don't think we saw last time out. The name doesn't strike me as familiar. So a few new drivers who weren't, well, we knew that there were a few drivers that weren't necessarily involved in the first race that couldn't make it because of prior commitments. Well, you can see that we've got a 21 strong grid here tonight, which is a touch more than we had the other evening. So it's going to be, you know, full of exciting action, although we're talking about maybe it's not that easy to overtake and qualifying is very important, blah, 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 blah. They're still going to give it their absolute all, and if you have a look, the top 14 are separated by less than 2 seconds, the top 11 are separated by less than 1 second, and then if you're looking at like 15th backwards, 15th I'd say down to 19th, it's just a couple of tenths in it, half a second in it. So all through the order there's going to be some action somewhere as Alex Toft-Jones now jumps up to 7th place, and I'm very much looking forward to not only the fight for the lead, because obviously that is very interesting, we'll be focusing on it a lot, but also how the mid-pack drivers get on, especially for that driver of the day, that ballast kit by PowerMax for the driver of the day prize. That is every single round, isn't it? And it's there to fight for. Even if you're fighting for 20th place, that's still a prize that's worth having.
Yeah, definitely that. I mean, you can see we're on board here with Akil, and also you talked about Scott Bugner, another new entry for this round in particular. You know, I was talking to Scott, he said, you know what, I saw the Ginetta's on, I really fancied it. I know I've missed the first round, but any chance I can come along and do the remaining rounds. And look, he's jumped in the car and straight away nearly a top 10 in qualifying. Fantastic, Jack. This is what we want to see. You can see there's still slots left on the grid. So anyone watching this that goes, you know what, I actually think I'll be all right at that, or I want to give it a go, get in the running for them prizes. You can see the space, get involved.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's maybe a slightly difficult car to drive, but it's extremely satisfying once you get it nailed. And speaking of getting it nailed, it looks like Jordan Brennan's going to keep hold of his first position, but look at the difference between Stapleford and Jack McIntyre at the moment. 1,000th of a second between 4th and 3rd place at the moment as we're looking at Callum Newsham. Ruhrig and Stapleford have both crossed the line, so there'll be no improvements from them from now on. However, McIntyre can still wheedle his way into 3rd place if he can just get an extra 10th on him. Callum Newsham comes across the line. It's going to have to hold on to 5th for him as we now look at the Zancho Simsport driver of Jack McIntyre coming through the final corner. In fact, no, it's not the final corner. I'm absolutely wrong with that. But he is looking like he's trying his best to maybe pick that 3rd place away from Stapleford.
Yeah, corner 12. I'll correct you there, Jack. There you go. Actually, as we say that, look, Scott Bugner up to 7th place. in his first time out in the car. 7th place for Scott Bugner. Fantastic. Ryan Elliot there with maximum ballast on. I mean, look at that. That's the difference. Round 1 winner, Ryan Elliot in 6th place. Round 2 newcomer, Scott Bugner, 7th place. Exactly what we want to see in this championship.
Yes, indeed, and we're talking about Callum Newsham and Ryan Elliot, aren't we? Obviously 5th and 6th. Well, they were a fair few tenths in 1st and 2nd Mazzano's. So, it's McIntyre. Oh, he's just absolutely thrown the cat amongst the pigeons. He's not gone for 3rd. He's gone for 1st place and got it by 100th of a second. Stunning lap time by Jack McIntyre. Can Jordan Brennan respond? He's the only driver out there who hasn't finished the lap yet, finished qualifying. Let's see as a car slides in the background. But Dave, that was an absolutely sensational lap by McIntyre.
Yeah, you know what? Known Jack, I've raced with him multiple times before. Fantastic driver. You know what? I thought his performance last week, he'll be kicking himself. He won't be necessarily happy with that. But to put it on pole here in round 2, this is more the Jack Mack we all know. And I tell you what, Jack Mack, Jordan Brennan, Maxi Rohrig even, down towards turn 1. This is going to be a hell of a fight.
Yeah, Callum Newsham having to try and pick up as many points as he can, maybe waiting for that opportunity if there's a little bit of contact or a little opportunity basically to try and get into that podium positions. When you got the maximum ballast or near maximum ballast on board, you just have to be patient and take the championship points. You can't be expected to take race victories on pure pace alone. You've got to play the smart game. Scott Bugner though, 7th place, brand new to the championship this evening. That is pretty sensational, isn't it?
Indeed, you know, Scott Bugner, for a newcomer to the car, to put it within inside the top 10 on an incredibly competitive field is a fantastic effort. But I've just dragged Jack Mack into the interview room here. You know, I said, Jack, I hope you don't mind me throwing you under the bus here. Last round probably wasn't the results that you really wanted, knowing, you know, how well you can drive. But I tell you what, putting it on pole this round, you've definitely put your foot back on the championship.
Oh mate, yeah, that was last round wasn't great. I struggled for pace. I didn't get much time to do much testing, so it was, yeah, it's what it is. But then, yeah, wanted to come back this week with a bit more pace, and yeah, there we go. Last lap, bit of a flyer. So yeah, chuffed with that.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely left it till the last minute yet again to put in the lap time. Jordan Brennan incredibly close behind. I take it going down in turn 1 for me is the key overtaking opportunity. I mean, tactics going down into turn 1 with a start like that. Is it going to be a case of get a good start, defend the inside, or just sort of read the grid and see whether you can open the corner up and get an early advantage?
Yeah, we just got to see. I mean, Jordan, I don't think he put together the lap that he didn't put together the lap that he could have done. He was quicker in practice, so I'm surprised he wasn't up there in quali. So I'm expecting him to have a really good start. His car's a little bit lighter than mine, so we'll just see how it goes. I mean, it's a big wide turn 1, so there's a few different options with lines and moves. So yeah, we'll just see what happens.
Oh well, good luck for race 1 here, Jack, and huge congratulations with putting it on pole.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
That was Jack McIntyre, obviously the Simply a Race car. There's actually a SimSport car, really. On pole position, obviously. And Dave, it's a difficult one. It's a long run into turn 1. You've driven the track more than I have. What's going through the minds of the opposition here? Is it a case of a fantastic start might give you an opportunity? Is it slightly easier to defend into turn 1? What's the thought process?
Well, what I was trying to get out of Jack for me there was, you know, getting a good start here on this track is one thing, but the straight for me is probably long enough. It's a bit like Monza. If you can get in the car that's took the lead from the off, and you've got also a good enough start, you get tucked in, the slipstream down towards turn 1 will be evident. So it's all about how you defend it, and if you defend that inside corner too hard, it's going to leave you prime time for 3rd, 4th place trying to lunge, you know, with the pace advantage coming down the outside. So that's what I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, indeed. We got about 1 minute and 30 seconds to the start of this race, and we can't wait for it. If anybody's wondering what's going on here, obviously this is the AOC Gaming League of Champions Season 2. This is the first of 4 championship that's involved in the League of Champions. The Ginetta Super Cup Series. We're very much looking forward to seeing how this second round, which is the one we're going on to now, it consists of two 20-minute races. So this is the first race, which will be 20 minutes, and the second race, top 10 reverse grid, of 20 minutes as well. So as we're sort of counting down to the beginning of the race, we can obviously see the top 5, McIntyre, Brennan, Rurik, Stapleford and Newsham. They'll all be raring to go. Bugner is probably one to look out for as well, as it's his first evening on the championship.
And you know, I honestly cannot wait for this one. I really cannot predict, you know, who's going to get the early lunge. You know, I mean, Jack Mack said himself, John Brennan hasn't quite put the lap together that he maybe could have done in qualifying. He knows the pace he's got. So Jack's definitely going to be watching his mirrors there. Maxi Rohrig, I still don't think that was the lap he could have done in qualifying either. He's going to be fast. And then you've got Callum Newsham and Ryan Elliot, both with weight on the car, maybe going to struggle in these early parts of the race where they can't use the momentum.
Yeah, indeed. But as the lights start to come on, we can start to get excited as well for the first race here at Mugello. It's going to be a few lights, the engine notes rise, and we will be racing for the first time here on a Tuesday night. And they're away. McIntyre gets a lot of wheel spin, a fairly decent start. The back end of the grid is pretty much split away from the top end of the grid already, and as they come over the crest, I think it's still McIntyre in the race lead. He's gone for the racing line already. In fact, no, he hasn't, because on the outside is Jordan Brennan, a huge run around the outside. It's going to be fantastic racing if he can get the move done, but it looks like McIntyre's wise to it. He squeezes them out a little bit. Brennan still on the inside for the second corner. Crucial. He gets his nose ahead. He keeps it ahead as well as he runs through the chicane. They're going side by side. Stapleford thinking, I'm having a little bit of that, I think, with Maxi Rurik.
Definitely. I mean, what a clean start there through turn 1. Look at the volume of cars, but look at this. Robbie Stapleford battling hard with Jack McIntyre, his teammate. Look, Maxi Rohrig right in behind him, looking for any opportunity. He's going to try and hang it around the outside of Jack McIntyre there. Oh, not going to quite keep it up the inside. And then already receiving pressure. Who's that behind him? I believe it's Alex Toth-Jones in the Riggs car. Ryan Elliot making leeways as well. Up the inside of Alex Toth-Jones. Callum Newsham up the inside of him. My God, 3 cars into one corner. This can't go well, Jack.
It didn't go well either as Toth-Jones gets a massive hit. Newsham comes back on. Elliot gives him a massive hit back as well. And all of a sudden, those two drivers dropping down. But you're right, the 3 wide. Oh, in fact, that was Bugner. Sorry, Bugner with the receiving hits. And he still is from Luke Weston, the fast archiver. As Newsham goes wide, comes back onto the circuit. Everybody does well to avoid him. You said that you can't overtake here at Mugello, Dave. Well, pretty much to those words. They're trying to prove you wrong in every which way possible.
Yeah, they're definitely proving us wrong here. And I tell you what, the driver who is really put his stamp on it from 11th place on the grid, Max Edmundson, up to 6th place already on the back of Dan Zelos. That's exactly what he needs for his championship hopes.
Yeah, it is indeed, and it's thanks a lot to the fact that obviously McIntyre didn't really get the start he wanted. Maybe that bumped everybody up a little bit, and then obviously the 5th and 6th place drivers of Newsham and Elliot really sort of getting at each other and then falling down the order, causing people to slow down, and Stapleford's going through a McIntyre. It's always nice as a commentator to see 2 identical cars. It's very difficult to tell them apart, but these teammates have huge respect for each other as McIntyre keeps that 2nd position ahead of Stapleford. Jordan Brennan in the race lead at the moment. Maxi Ruhrig obviously dropping down to 4th place at the moment, but there is a long way to go yet. 17.5 minutes of racing to go in just race number 1, obviously, and then we've got a top 10 reverse grid, so keep an eye on that one. Scott Bugner's currently rounding out your top 10. Luke Weston in 8th place in the fast star colours. Dan Zelos is the driver we're focusing on now, and looking his nose up the inside there is Max Edmundson. Couldn't get the move done and dusted, and that's maybe showing what you were really trying to say earlier on, and Dave, in the fact that it is difficult to overtake here. It's not impossible, but it is difficult.
Fair commitment there by Max Edmundson, really committing to the inside line. Dan Zelos closing the inside door, and you saw there, that commitment is what you need to get past here. Didn't quite pay off for Max Edmundson that time, but both drivers there lost out quite a lot to Ryan Elliot, who's tucked in behind there. Scott Bugner is trying to get back through this grid, getting past the likes of Andy Dorman and Alex Toth-Jones. I believe, is that Callum Newsham that's sort of struggling to make any headway? They're down in 10th place on the grid.
Yeah, we just saw Newsham has been cut to Bugner, actually, just carving through. And I think, although Bugner maybe had a fantastic, obviously, hot lap pace, maybe just struggling with the car slightly, but to be fair, also, we don't know necessarily the extent of any damage that may have come on. We saw Bugner off the road at one point, so there's every opportunity that he's carrying just a touch of damage, which means he's bleeding places, which is obviously a bit of a shame for him. Carroll is the car we're focusing on now. He's got press behind him, and I said before, didn't I, Dave, that it's obviously we'll try and focus on the top couple of drivers, but all the way down here, even if you're fighting for 13th or even 20th place, there's going to be a fight, and it's going to be a fight worth having as well. You've got to keep it clean, you've got to keep it succinct, and you never know what kind of places you could pick up. Speaking of picking up places, Rurik's trying to recapture his place in 3rd place on the grid, and he goes ahead of Stapleford. And turn 1, Dave, you said it, it's going to be a ripe place for overtakes, as Stapleford tries to shove his nose back up the inside and done things successfully.
You know what, this is a bit of the personality in the driver coming out a bit. As I thought in round 1, Maxi Rorig's not the driver to be overly aggressive. You know, he's quite calculated with the car, very smooth, and he saw there the move was going to be, you know, have to be fair committed around the outside of Robbie Stapleford. There's still 15 minutes left of this race. I think Maxi's just calculating this. He's going, you know what, I think I've got a little bit of that pace there. I can probably use that to my advantage. As we see Max Edmundson get through on Dan Zelos here. Ryan Elliott's going to be looking at this thinking, I want to be a part of this. But Max Edmundson, we've seen the pace he's got. Will he use this time now to pull ahead of Dan? Or will Dan manage to hold on and get that slipstream? Probably look forward to a turn 1 thing, but I tell you one thing I did notice is I can't see him on the time screen anymore, but I was looking for Sutton. Sutton's dropped all the way to 21st. He was having a really good battle there with Andy Carroll and Kenny Press, so wonder what's happened to Mick Sutton.
Yeah, not entirely sure, but Jordan Brennan currently 1.2 seconds ahead of Jack McIntyre. Stapleford 1.6 seconds behind McIntyre as well, and then there's a little bit of a gap between Edmundson as well, and then obviously to Rurik. That gap, that fight we're looking at right now is Edmundson, Zelos in the middle, then Ryan Elliot, and I said before, Ryan Elliot, maybe he needs to play the smart game, maximum amount of ballast on board obviously, as well as Edmundson. He's got the second most amount of ballast on board with 24 kilos. They're picking up crucial championship points right now, aren't they, Dave? They need to be trying to aim for those top 5 finishes, and if you can do that throughout the entirety of the championship, as it looks like Ryan Elliott is looking for 6th place, as I was just talking about it, it's a classic way of winning a championship, and he's overshot it, hasn't he? Dan Zelos gets the cutback and secures 6th place back ahead of Elliott. But we've seen it plenty time and time again, really. If anybody's a fan of the British touring cars, Colin Turkington, he never finishes outside the top 5 if he can help it, and that's when he starts winning championships because of it. So there's a bit of a difference there between, say, Ash Sutton, who goes for wins, or DNS, or the likes of Colin Turkington, who just picks up points as much as he can.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying before. Maxi Rohrig, for me, is proven to be one of them drivers who seems to have the pace, the smoothness in the car, and not the aggression that means it's chancing that, you know, he'll end up with a did not finish. Touch wood. I obviously don't want that to happen. I hopefully haven't commentated curse, but we'll not touch upon that. But actually, he's looking quite feisty here with Robbie Stapleford, and I think he's just, you know, showing his nose certain places, just making Robbie look in his mirrors a little bit and going, you know what, I'm not done here, I might end up on the podium. Max Edmundson up into 5th place. But I tell you what battle to really watch, this battle between Callum Newsham, Luke Weston, this is the battle for 10th place. This is where, you know, that reverse grid really matters, and if Callum finds himself on the wrong end of 10th place and doesn't get the reverse grid, that could really sway the championship for him.
Well, he had to rely on race 2, didn't he, in last time out, and he had to rely on that reverse grid to try and secure a race victory. It's going to be a little bit more difficult this time, though, because he's got a lot of ballast on board with him this evening. He's got 18 kilograms, which may be one of the reasons why he's not flying through the order as quickly as he might like. But equally, if he's on, say, the first or second row of the grid with the top 10, reverse, then it's still going to be difficult for him to really extend the gap in the race lead as well. He's not going to be as quick as he would like, unlike, obviously, last time out at Misano. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult to try and have those recovery drives for him, and any driver, to be fair. As we're saying, Mick Sutton, well, Mick Sutton's now got up to 19th place, so he's clearly shown that he does have some pace in him, and he doesn't have any weight on board, so I suppose he can try and stretch his legs and learn a bit more racecraft here tonight.
Yeah, definitely. You know what? Mick Sutton was shown he had pace early on in this race, really starting to stretch out and possibly get into that sort of near 10th place. And obviously, with some sort of altercation or a loss of the car, dropped himself back down to 21st, but already getting himself back to 19th place. As you can see, he's battling for 18th place. So Mick Sutton really starting to make his way back through the pack here. Oh, very, very late lunge there. Moves like that, though, you see, because he's committed to it that much, slowed himself down that much, it's bringing Martin Johnson in 20th right onto the back of him again because of the loss of momentum. Look at this.
Flying up the inside there, wasn't he? As Mick Sutton and gotten the move done as well. It's to 18th place as we're watching him now trying to get that gap. And he's already dropped Laramie and Johnson. Now it's Ed Akers. But it's going to be a long time before he has any opportunity at maybe any kind of reverse grid glory. Speaking of reverse grid glory, that's quite difficult to say that quickly. Yeah, Luke Weston, he was in 10th place, wasn't he, or in 11th place? Maybe having a fight with Callum Newsham was on the cards, but he's dropped down to 11th now, and now all of a sudden Toff Jones right on his backside, right on his gearbox, and he's looking up the inside. Toff Jones is going to have that move done. There's a little bit of contact. Toff Jones running a little bit too much speed into the corner, and I think Weston gave him enough room there, to be fair, but Toff Jones just having a little bit of argy-bargy touring car style action. But that is the corner. You said earlier on, Dave, is the last place you want to be overtaking someone, because you're just going to scuppy your run onto the start-finish straight. You're going to be a sitting duck into turn one.
We might see here if Luke Weston can cover the inside line, which he hasn't. He's left the inside open a little bit, as I did say in the hot lap video. You know, you go for a move in that last corner, it's all well and good, but that straight line straight is that long, a bit of slipstream, and your work can be very quickly undone, as we saw there. Prime example, Luke Weston, Alex Toth Jones. You know what, I'm actually going to say, I don't think, as we see Callum Newsham with it, extremely brave move round the outside of Robin Walters there, into P8. Ryan Elliot isn't that far in front of him, you know, Jack. This might not be done yet, but as I was going to say, that Alex Toth Jones move, I think that's a typical karting move or racing driver move where it's not necessarily he's outbraked himself, but he's just made the driver on the outside go, no, I'm going to make you turn in a bit later, I'm going to run the corner a little bit deeper, and where you'd expect me to turn in, I'm not going to, and force the driver to basically turn into the side of the car because he's trying to turn in too early. So, you know, a very little cheeky move there by Alex, but it really shows his experience in racecraft there. But I bet he's glad he's not paying for the bodywork damage that would entail in real life.
Yeah, exactly. There's always a little bit more caution, isn't it, when you actually have to pay the bills, and luckily he doesn't have to this time round. But it's still going on, this little battle. It seems to have died down now slightly because Toth Jones has made that move earlier in the lap before the final corner, basically, and now he can use that, you know, the momentum and the speed that he's got in the car to try and just pull away in the twisty, windy stuff onto the back straight to try and have enough of a gap to not get that slipstream effect for Luke Weston as well. A purple lap time for Maxi Rurig. And I think the gap right at the front of the field is still relatively close, isn't it? Stapleford actually at one point, if you remember right back to the beginning of the race, 12 minutes ago actually, was a little bit of a threat for Jack McIntyre, wasn't he? But Stapleford just seems to have dropped back slightly, or McIntyre's got the heat in the car. I'm not entirely sure which way round it is, maybe a touch of both, I'm not sure, but Stapleford and Rurik are yet to really make any kind of meaningful attacks on each other, are they? They seem to be quite happy where they are. Maybe that's Maxi Rurik's opportunity and racecraft, you know, pick up the points. Don't do anything silly. I want to be, in the car behind onto the final lap of the race, and then try and make the move into the start-finish line, almost at a drag race style.
Yeah, exactly that. You know, I think it's quite a nice, sensible drive at the moment by Maxi. Maybe you were seeing a bit of a difference in pace between Robbie and Jack with the weight difference, but we are noticing Jack Mack actually putting in some very, very good sectors at the moment and closing that gap onto Jordan Brennan. It's down significantly, you know, to nearly half a second now. He's getting to the point where that toe on the straight line straight might be starting to bring him back into this picture and open him up for a possible turn one overtaking opportunity. You know, Jack Mack currently with the fastest lap with a 54.8, Jordan Brennan on a 54.9. Last lap, Jack Mack 0.2 faster than Brennan. So I was seeing here possibly a sort of last minute charge by Jack Mack. Maybe he's got his tyres in a slightly better window, or maybe Jordan Brennan's just, you a few little mistakes here and there, maybe a little lapse of concentration. We're not sure, but Jack Mack is definitely trying to make inwards onto the back of John Brennan.
6.5 minutes left. Is it too little, too late? That's what we're going to be seeing. But I think, you know what, I think you're right, to be fair, Dave. I think he's got every opportunity to be catching Jordan Brennan. These drivers, both of them, don't really have that much weight on board. Obviously, McIntyre has 10 kilograms and Jordan Brennan has 0 because he's in 16th place in the championship. So if McIntyre does actually manage to overtake Brennan and keep his car ahead of Brennan, then that will be extremely impressive with those 10 kilograms on board. And I suppose for race 2, you can't really think about race 2 right now. You just got to try and go for those race victories here and try and launch an attack on the championship, because neither of these drivers, I mean, you could argue McIntyre, he's in 6th in the championship, but he really needs to get some more points on the board, and Brennan desperately needs more points on the board. Elliot, though, and Newsham, 7th and 8th, and I tell you what, Newsham, I think, is just catching Elliot, isn't he? He's 1.5 seconds just behind. If Elliot starts having a little bit of a fight with Zelos and Edmundson, which is entirely possible, because Edmundson and Zelos are very close to each other, we can see this sort of fight for 5th place really bunch up with each other, and there's a huge gap between 5th and 4th, isn't there? There's a bit of a disparity in the field at the moment, just by the way that this race has fallen, with Maxi Rurik, Stableford, McIntyre and Brennan really driving away with this.
Yeah, and actually I was just about to touch on this battle, because if you notice further down the grid, Callum Newsham and Robin Walters have traded places the past 2 laps down the start-finish line straight. So Callum Newsham here is getting involved in battles that really, you know, if he ends up putting this in the gravel, or, you know, having a bit of a bump with Robin Walters, this is too close to that reverse grid for the 10th. As we see here, Jack Mack close enough now to Brennan to possibly take the lead of the race, but he's not in the tow look. He's actually side by side with Jordan Brennan. Jordan Brennan with no weight on the car, so you like to think Jordan maybe be slightly later on the brakes here than Jack Mack. Will he push him slightly wide, force Jack to, you know, use more of the track? He needed to be back across left there, you see, instead of leaving the door open. He's left the door open. Jack Mack's not going to need a second invitation there. This is where Jordan Brennan needs to get his head down, get back in that tow, and possibly get the move done on that start-finish line straight.
Yeah, every opportunity in the last 4 minutes that this is going to swap again, isn't it? And we were saying about McIntyre doing a fantastic job of catching him back up. Well, in qualifying, we had McIntyre on pole position, obviously. He was saying that Brennan maybe didn't quite have the lap together that everyone was expecting. Well, Brennan is now fallen behind McIntyre, but is that a tactical switch? He maybe saw McIntyre catching him up. Maybe he's just biding his time and hoping that he can get onto the final lap of the race, as I said before, in that slipstream, in that jazz, clinching onto the back of the gearbox as close as possible out of the final corner on the final lap of the race. We'll have a look. Obviously, it's only a 20-minute race, so these drivers, although they're thinking tactically, it's just all about track position. And I think, I don't know about you, Dave, but I'd much rather have track position over a cheeky tactic any day.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be truly honest, I'm mesmerised by this battle. I think Jordan has worked this out. I reckon he's thinking, I need to just get nice flow through this sector, keep close enough to Jack. He needs to hook this last corner up, get right in this tow, and I reckon we'll see a move here for turn 1. But Jack Mack, look at the exit he's got out there onto the start-finish line straight. This is quite a big gap actually for Jordan to try and close purely on slipstream here. But look at the time coming down, 3.6. We just took onto the timing screen there, so we can't actually see his gap. But that gap is definitely coming down. Look, into the braking zone. Jordan, we need to see him press on a bit here to get a little bit closer at the last corner. That's the prime place for the move for me personally.
But crucially as well, he was in that slipstream, wasn't he? But it wasn't enough. The start-finish line, came too soon for actually the slipstream to be a major component, didn't it? It wasn't necessarily like he gained 3/10 by the time the start-finish line had come up. He gained 3/10 maybe by the braking zone of turn 1, which is
exactly.
So yeah. He's going to need, and that's why I would say maybe track position is a lot more desirable than a tactic maybe. So I don't reckon if Brennan had thought of that tactic, I would be a touch regretting it now, and I'd rather be in McIntyre's position. However, saying that, it might not have been a tactic at all. McIntyre might have just had the pace, and Brennan might just have lost the rhythm for 2 laps in a row, and that's why he's in the area he is now.
Yeah, I mean, I personally would say I think it was maybe a case of Jordan looking a bit in his mirrors. Jack definitely finding a little bit maybe in the car throughout the race, managing to get them lap times down a bit. I don't know whether this is tactics for Brennan to be sat in second place. I'd imagine Jordan's trying to get to first place as quickly as possible. You know, he needs them championship points to help crawl him back up, but he needs to get this exit slightly better out of last corner to give him that potential for a move in turn 1. This is going to be his last opportunity here down the start finish line straight for a turn 1 move, because next lap will be the last lap, and as you said, the slipstream isn't strong enough before the start finish line straight to get the overtake done. Will we see the move done this time? I don't think that's close enough.
It doesn't look quite close enough, but he was closer than the previous lap. Let's see how brave he's going to be on. In fact, he touches the grass. That's not going to help him.
He's gone for it.
But he's lunging up the inside on McIntyre, but he just about gets the car stop as McIntyre did slam the door shut, to be fair. And he runs a little bit wider to cover off that move into the second corner. But I can tell you what, Brennan was desperate for that one, wasn't he? He touched the grass. He was looking to try and, show the move to the left, try and keep McIntyre over to the racing line so he could send it as far up the inside as hard as he could, but it wasn't there, and all of a sudden he's got a very, very tricky any overtaking manoeuvres here are going to be exceptional or dangerous. Let's have a look and see what Jordan decides to do.
Yeah, I mean, incredible last lap antics here, but unfortunately I think Jack Max just got enough of that advantage now. Maybe Jordan slightly overdriving the car here to try and close that gap a little bit, and as I said before, all it takes is slightly overdriving that car, getting the traction control to cut in slightly sooner, get, that lack of power, and then straight away you start to see the lap times fall. Jack Mack here with a half a second lead. Jack Mack keeps this clean now. I think this is probably Jack Max, but as we see, Callum Newsham up to 8th place, I believe, is that Andy Dorman dropping down to 12th place. But also Max Edmundson, I don't know what's happened there, has dropped down to 7th. I actually had Max Edmundson marked down on my sheet of paper as possibly one of the drivers for driver of the round in contention for the end, because the way he picked himself up through qualifying and then found his way up into 5th position halfway through the race, was really impressive to me. But as you see, Jack Mack going to crumb across the line here out of the last corner. Jordan Brennan put up a good fight there, didn't he, Jack? But just not quite close enough to get that lunge definitely done there.
Yeah, if you look at the qualifying results and you look at race 1 results, it looks like Jack Mack went for a lights to flag victory, but it was not the case. It was not that easy in the slightest. Jordan Brennan comes across the line, and something we didn't shout out because we were so excited about McIntyre versus Brennan is that actually Maxi Rurik overtook Stapleford on that penultimate lap, going on to the final lap into the first corner. So although maybe Brennan couldn't take the opportunity to get the slipstream working for him and that little tactic, Rurik, who sat in the dirty air of Stapleford for the entirety of that race, did manage to pull the move off going on to the final lap of the race, and kept it as well for the bottom step of the podium. We're seeing the rest of the drivers file in now. As you can see, the top 5 rounded out by Dan Zelos and Ryan Elliot, Edmundson, Callum Newsham, Walters, and Bugner will be on pole position in the reverse top 10 for race number 2, which will be coming up in a matter of minutes. It's a 20-minute race again, which means we'll be seeing plenty more action of what we've just seen today, Dave. And if anything, I'm all for it. I want more of this.
Yeah, I mean, what a fantastic race here at round 2 at Mugello. What a fantastic start. I mean, we saw 20 cars go around turns 1, 2 and 3. Barely any collisions, no spins. It was just cars absolutely everywhere, dicing for position. Exactly the racing we want to see. As we said before, Jack Mack, not exactly the start to finish that he maybe would have wanted. He didn't hold the lead the whole way. John definitely didn't make it easy, but that's definitely going to be something we can ask him about going on to the interviews.
Yeah, speaking of the interviews, let's have a chat to our not only pole position man, but our first place man as well, Jack McIntyre. That was a difficult race, wasn't it, for you?
Oh god, that was so tough. Yeah, made the mistake at the start, and Jordan got past that. I tried to stick it around the outside, but just went way too deep and went off. So I was kind of doubting whether or not it would be possible from there, but just got my head down, followed him, got in the draft, and was just chipping away a tenth or two at a time. And then, yeah, really, to be fair, I think that's probably one of the best moves I've ever done, just in terms of setting it up and faking the cutback and just driving straight around the outside. That was, I was pretty happy with that. That was a good race.
Absolutely was. And you had Robbie Staplefoot up your backside for the opening couple of laps, didn't you? Was there a threat of maybe your teammate was going to try and fly one out of nowhere up the inside? Maybe a little bit of contact here and there. Was that in a threat, or were you on the comms with each other? I'll break us down with that one.
No, we weren't talking, but I trust Robbie. I think if he was going to go for a move, he'd have made it really clear, and he kind of tucked in, and I think probably recognised that it would be better for us both just to try and drive off and catch up with Jordan. So yeah, I wasn't too worried about that.
Well, good stuff. And I suppose the last thing is you're starting in 10th. This is a difficult circuit to overtake at. You made it look very good on Jordan Brennan, obviously, but starting in 10th is maybe a different kettle of fish. What's the tactic here? Because you do need to make up quite a lot of points to be in contention for this mini championship, as we're heading almost into halfway already.
Yeah, you just got to see how it goes at the start. It's a tough track to pass at, so you just got to find the opportunities and take them when they appear. So we'll see what happens down into turn 1 and then just go from there.
Well, thank you very much, Jack. We'll have to let you go because there's only 4 minutes to the next race, so we'll let you go. And Dave, one quick chat with Jordan Brennan, our second place man.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Jordan, it looked like incredibly aggressive to get the move done really early on into the race. Get that first position. But Jack just managed to find a little bit of that pace, didn't he, during the race? But that, I've got to say, that lunge towards the end of the race there, I thought was going to be the deal breaker. But really good commitment there, but not quite enough to get that first position back, was it?
No, it wasn't. Yeah, I struggled to find the pace I had in practice in that race, but yeah, trajected really well there. Yeah, struggled with that.
Yeah, well, I don't know whether that's maybe a case of a little bit more fuel on board as opposed to what you're maybe practicing with, but still phenomenal pace there during the race, and definitely, regarding getting through the grid here, looking at the pace the other drivers have got in front of you, it's definitely going to be a one to try and battle through to get them points that you valuably need for the championship.
Yeah, it's probably going to be a difficult one. There's a lot of quick people in front. I'm going to see what I can do and hopefully get to the front as soon as I can.
Well, I'll let you get your head down, Jordan, and good luck going into race 2, mate.
Cheers, thanks.
And should we try and have a quick word with Maxi here, Jack?
I think we've got to we'll have a chat with Maxi potentially after the second race, because we've got to jump to a quick video before race 2 heads underway.
No worries.
Hello and welcome back. You're now joining us on the grid for race number 2, and we've got no time at all until the lights start to come on. And you can see Scott Bugner, brand new to the championship, will be on pole position, the most nerve-wracking place you can possibly start when you're new to a championship. Walters in second, then Callum Newsham, the driver to look out for, I'd say, in third place. He needs to have a much better race 2 than he had in race 1, but as the lights start to come on the screen. The ending notes will also start to rise. We have a second 20-minute race coming up for you with the League of Champions, and they're away, and it's a good start by Bugner. A little bit late on the reactions there, I'd say, from Callum Newsham. Walter's also getting a decent start, and you can see them all starting to come over the crest now. Bugner still in the lead. Callum Newsham maybe getting good traction after that bad initial getaway. He's up to second place already, and he's got the inside. There's going to be contact going into turn 1 between Elliot and Walters. Elliot getting his elbows out already. McIntyre drops down into 11th place. He won't be too worried about that because he's not that far away from first, and it looks like they're having a little bit more contact already as Walters goes off into the tyre wall after that initial contact with, I believe, Elliot. And that's Rurik going on the gravel as well. We didn't manage to have a chat with him after the first race after he came third, but it's more drama going into the second chicane as they're just flying into each other, Dave.
An incredibly hectic first lap there. Clever driving there by, I believe, is that Robbie Stiltford, who just backed out of that 3 abreast going down into that right-hander there. Actually, I believe that was Jack Matt, actually, not Robbie Stiltford. Incredible reading, and that's the positions there that separate you from being a hot lap and a real championship contender. You know, 3 abreast into one corner, there's always going to be someone who doesn't win there. As we see, Callum Newsham already getting up near first place here. Scott Bugner going slightly wide. He needs to try and hold on here with Newsham. Newsham's got good pace. Hopefully Scott Bugner doesn't get overtaken straight away, but he has. Ryan Elliot through, and Dan Zelos is going to take advantage of the inside as well. Dan Zelos is going to follow Ryan Elliot through, but it's going to be side by side going through the last chicane. This is going to be, is this going to work? Is it going to work? Dan Zelos on the inside, going towards last corner, incredibly tight there, but Scott Bugner is going to have the inside line, going into the last corner. Will we see Dan Zelos go for that slipstream move down into turn 1?
Tell you what, Scott Bugner, quick learner, isn't he? Because Callum Newsham showed him up the inside. That meant he overtook too much speed. He was driving in his mirrors, and he went wide, losing out on that first position. A hit big hit up the inside as well by Dan Zelos. But later in the lap, we saw that Bugner learned from his mistakes, as all of a sudden you can see in the rearview mirror. I think Zelos has got problems with Max Edmundson, who was really crawling all over the back of him, and up the inside goes Zelos. Elliot on Bugner as well. I think Bugner is trying to
go on the outside.
Bugner's gone back through, and Zelos is getting forced wide as well, almost hung out to dry. You don't know where to look. They're lining up 2 by 2. Hurrah, hurrah, the crowd screams. Bugner into second place. Ryan Elliot giving him a tap into third. Max Edmundson followed by Dan Zelos. And I tell you what, we're going to need oxygen in my office because this one's going to be a hectic drive.
Well, maybe you put an oxygen tank in your new build for your studio there. But yeah, I tell you what. Max Edmundson, Scott Bugner round the outside of Ryan Elliot into turn 1. He got the punt from Dan Zelos down the start-finish line straight. It allowed him to close the gap into Ryan Elliot. Ryan Elliot defended the inside, left Scott Bugner nowhere else to go other than around the outside, and Scott simply turned around and went, well, if you're going to leave us that gap, that's what I'm going to go for. Look at this, second place. Max Edmundson with the late lunge into Ryan Elliot there. Now Ryan Elliot a little bit deep. Max Edmundson, it's all starting to get a little bit backed up here, isn't it, here, Jack? This is normally a telltale sign for something big's going to kick off soon.
It is indeed, yeah. Big look up the inside there by Edmundson on Elliot. And Elliot, who's been in the waters, he does get a little bit of a tap. The rear-wheel drive machines are a little bit tricky to get back into a straight line once you get a tap up the rear like that. But Elliot's done just that. And did you know that we have a race leader? Callum Newsham's also in this race, by the way. 2.3 seconds up the road, in case you'd forgotten. As Bugner also started to get a gap because Edmundson, Elliot, Zelos, Brennan and McIntyre are all getting in on each other. And this is fantastic driving here at Mugello. It shows that it is difficult to pass around. It's not impossible. It brings out the best in some drivers and arguably the worst in others, they could argue. It depends on which perspective you're looking at. But they're all giving a new definition of bump drafting, aren't they?
Yeah, they are indeed. But you know what? I think Max Edmundson, that was actually a nudge to say, come on, I can't afford to be trying to get past you. You've obviously got the pace. Let's both go forward because Dan Zelos and the pack behind are closing. Come on, Ryan, let's go. And you can see Dan Zelos is trying to go with them. There's this battle that's starting to develop here between Robbie Stiltford, Jordan Brennan and Jack McIntyre. I actually noticed there that Jordan Brennan was slightly left of him and Jack Mac down the start-finish line straight was managing to get in the tour that Robbie Stiltford was making. But somehow Jordan Jordan Brennan's managed to hold on to that same position that he went across the line in. I tell you what, Jack, I think I'm going to need to take a breath myself, because this action in the start of the race has been absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I think Edmundson's been off to B&Q this week, hasn't he? Because he's just got plenty of taps up his sleeve. It's sensational driving from all of them, and to be fair, it's fantastic to see that none of them have actually DNF'd this race so far. I'm amazed that we haven't seen any major shunts or into the travel traps, and we are seeing major moves though with Dan Zelos. There's a little tap as well back on Edmundson from Zelos, and I tell you what, I think that's just going to have to be the way that these cars are going to be driven this evening to make moves, as Edmundson's under real pressure from Staple Foods, trying to round the outside, Dave. You know just how hard that this is, and it's sensational stuff. There's inches between them, and sim racing, I tell you what, those of you who say that sim racing isn't as exciting as real racing, I beg you to watch the last 6 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, a phenomenal racing here, and I've got to admit, when you said about the B&Q, I didn't think that's where you would go with the B&Q pun. I know B&Q slogans, let's do it together, so ironically that also works, but yeah, the top one, fair enough, I'll give you that one, Jack.
Yeah, that's what I thought of a couple of weeks ago. I've been using it ever since. It's my favourite little anecdote-y thing. And Stapleton, he's got a huge run on Edmundson now. As Jordan Brennan, actually got a huge run on his teammate. It's always really difficult to tell when they've actually got the same damn liveries. But going into the turn one, I think Elliot... I'm actually properly confused of where we're looking at. Jordan Brennan's got the pace around the outside, but look at that huge move up the inside by McIntyre, taking advantage of the fact that two drivers were touching doors, and they're still touching doors. Edmundson and Stapleford, they're not only touching doors, they're touching grass, they're touching gravel. Luckily they didn't touch the Armco, but they're still hitting each other as they come back up.
They are indeed, and you know what, I think that was a case of three drivers all having the slipstream of one car down towards turn one, and it was a case of three cars all trying to take advantage of the same bit of tarmac. Jordan Brennan, the one to go around the outside, trying to sort of get around the outside of all the mess, and ended up with Max Edmundson actually being swallowed by both Zancho cars there, who were sort of trying to get past Edmundson as well. Yeah, a bit of a Zancho sandwich there, and unfortunately, two drivers not working out too well, but actually Jack Matt and Jordan Brennan are away up the grid and off the go.
Yeah, they've been abiding their time somewhat, haven't they, with that fantastic battle for second place. All of a sudden they're fighting with each other fairly fair amount, but it's amazingly a battle we haven't seen that much of. Callum Newsham 3.3 seconds up ahead, Scott Bugner in second place. He's only got 0.3 of a second to Ryan Elliot though now. Fourth is Dan Zelos, with Jordan Brennan in fifth. This is Alex Toft-Jones going through on Maxi Rurik, and I think that was Carroll going through on Dorman as well. Again, two very similar looking cars, a little bit difficult to try and pick them out, but we're looking at Maxi Rurik, who has only gone backwards thanks to the fact that he had a visit to the gravel trap. Again, probably another driver that doesn't need to go to B&Q anymore with the amount of gravel that's in his car, but Jack McIntyre now giving a flash, Brennan giving a flash to the light, not sure who to, maybe just saying hello on the broadcast.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe he's got his TV on the right, and he's noticing he's on the screen. But yeah, as we said, there's the slipstream playing its part again. Jack Mack down the outside. Will Jack Mack try the same thing that Jordan Brennan tried round the outside? He is indeed. You've seen that gives you the inside line into this chicane. But Jordan Brennan needs to be smart, hang it out round the outside of it. But he hasn't done it, so he's actually ended up losing this position here to Jack Mack. Is he going to get the drive down to the next chicane? He needs to keep his foot in this and be committed, otherwise we're seeing the pace Jack Mack's got, and he might start to pull away and close that gap on the back of Dan Zelos.
Yeah, now, as we've been watching this, it's been fantastic action in front of your eyes, and if you want to do a bit of a solid in the chat, then you can make sure you're voting for your driver of the day as well. Me and Dave will take into consideration what you guys say in the chat as well. So if you're here supporting a specific driver, or you just think that someone's done absolutely sensationally, try and make our job a little bit easier. You know, give us a vote, give us a consensus on who you think should be the driver of the day to win that balloting pack. Courtesy of Power Max. As well, we're having a look at Maxi Rurik. He's not letting this 8th place go, is he? And we were saying that Maxi scored solid points in the first round over at Mazzano. He's trying his best. Well, he scored 3rd in the first race here at Mugello, but this one hasn't quite gone to his plan, has he? The fight for second is still as hot as ever. Bugner, I think even he'll admit he's probably the cork in the bottle here, Dave, because Elliot, Zelos, McIntyre, Brennan all seem faster than him, don't they? But more importantly, he's got the track position.
Well, indeed, maybe he's the cork, but if that cork's in firm enough, there's no liquid coming out, is there? So if he holds on to this, he's got second in the bag, but Ryan Elliot is definitely not going to be making this easy. I tell you what, for a first time out, Scott Bugner is right at the top of my list for driver at the round at the moment, is it? And as Jack said, if anyone's got any other views, make sure you get commenting on this video to see who else might be in the running for it. It's Dan Zelos. I thought he was going to make it 3 wide there, Jack, going into turn 1. Scott Bugner's ran wide. Ryan Elliott's got through. Dan Zelos up the inside of both of them. Will Scott manage to get back here at Dan? Scott Bugner doesn't run it too far wide, so will he get the undercut back? Ryan Elliott up into second place. Callum Newsham in first place. It's a replay of round 1, isn't it?
It is indeed, but it has not been that plain sailing, has it? And I think the ballast has been a major factor in that. I think there's no denying that Elliot probably would have an extra 3 to 4 tenths of a second in his car if he didn't have the weight in his car. Todd Jones and Weston going at it again as Todd Jones seems to be moving past Rory up the inside of Weston as well. These guys are still glued side by side. That's a huge move by Maxie up the inside of Todd Jones, and there is contact. Into the gravel trap goes Todd Jones. He's trying to keep it in a straight line as he comes back on the circuit. But Rorig and Weston now promote themselves up. So does Edmundson. Todd Jones drops down to 11th place with Stapleford, who obviously was in that fight for second place for quite a long time, about 10 minutes of this race, all the way down in 12th, just trying to fight for any points he can see as he goes around the outside. Now it's a huge send. Will he have the momentum to carry to the second apex? There's a bit more touching. He's making track up as he goes along, but the rallycross move doesn't quite come off.
Indeed, I like the touch on the rallycross. But yeah, that was unfortunately from what I saw. Alex Todd Jones with a slight little bit of internet lag there. It just jolted them back into the back end of, in the front end of Maxi Rorig there. You know what? No malicious attempt there. That was just a case of a bit of internet code. Maxi Rorig going up the inside, nothing he could do about it. It's one of them things. As we see Scott Bugner with championship now contender Jack McIntyre. This is exactly what Jordan Brennan wants to see. All it takes these two to have a little bit of a tussle here in turn 1, and Jordan Brennan's right there to take advantage of it.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a key battle for our driver of the day, isn't it? Because Ryan Elliott, Dan Zelos just absolutely not giving a damn, is he? He's flying wherever he fancies, and he's got into second place ahead of Ryan Elliott. Scott Bugner in 4th, still ahead of Jack McIntyre, but he's gone wide. McIntyre goes at the inside. Few people in the chat saying McIntyre deserves the driver of the day. Well, I tell you what, if he finishes first and finishes in the top 3, sometimes you can't deny a driver who's done that well. He's also, it's not the fact that he's just had the pace, he's driven hard for this race too as well for it, and the race won. There's no denying that his racecraft has been on top point this evening here at Mugello. Ryan Elliott obviously in 3rd place with that 30 kilograms on board is doing really well. Dan Zelos taking advantage of the fact that he doesn't have any weight on board. But there's a huge crash in the background between Dorman and who else is that? Was that Luke Weston going off? And Dorman has to be really careful about rejoining the track here, that he doesn't get in anyone's way, and it's very close to doing exactly that. Stapleford back into the top 10. He's in 9th now, taking advantage of that contact earlier on. Todd Jones is running well at the back in 20th place. With 7 minutes to go, he doesn't seem to have any chance of catching anybody back up as Carroll looks up the inside of Luke Weston, gives him a little bit of a nudge wide. I'll tell you that looked like a little bit of contact. We're seeing a lot of touring car racing tonight, let's put it that way.
It is, but you know what? The contact I am seeing, it's little nudges here and there. It's not anything, you know, that serious. Alex Todd Jones, it's a real shame to see him drop down the grid that far. Whether it's them internet connection issues that we saw before. Yeah, some drivers really impressing me here at the moment though. Really getting up the grid. Nick Sutton up to 14th place from, I believe, was it 18th place he finished in the previous race. So really good performance from some of the guys further back in the grid as well.
Yeah, as Dan Zelos is knitting a jumper, he's putting that many weaves in here, isn't he? He's gone to the inside line now as McIntyre tries to fly the momentum around the outside of Ryan Elliott. It's going to be a tough going if he's going to try, but he's still there. Oh, he took just back in before launching up the inside of turn number 2. I tell you what, that would have been very brave and probably rather stupid, but luckily he wasn't that silly and he tucks back in to fight another day. Jordan Brennan as well in 5th place. I'll tell you what, this is incredible stuff, isn't it? Scott Bugner's still in 6th. He hasn't dropped too far back, but I think it is clear to see that he doesn't quite have the pace that the 4 drivers ahead of him do.
Yeah, and you know what? I feel bad that yet again Callum Newsham unfortunately hasn't had that much screen time, but the battles have been that good behind him and he's got that much in advantage. Sorry, Callum. You know, I know it's good for your sponsors, but but unfortunately the battle is further back and you've been too dominant to pull away a 5-second gap. So you've made, if you put the brakes on a little bit, you might get a bit more screen time. But Dan Zelos actually getting the breakaway from this pack in 3rd, 4th and 5th place here. We did notice that Ryan Elliot is maybe struggling a little bit more than he would usually do with maximum weight on board. Obviously Jack Mack behind him with very little and Jordan Brennan with none at all. So the two drivers behind, very light cars. We would expect to see them maybe a little bit more agile, maybe a bit easier to get past.
Yeah, they're still showing the nose, isn't he? Though is McIntyre and Elliott, and it's going to go right to the wire. To be honest, less than 5 minutes remaining. We have quite a few people saying Jack McIntyre for the driver of the day, and I suppose it depends whether he actually finishes this race, because there's every opportunity going out of the final corner now that he's going to be either on the podium or in the gravel trap. The way he's driving this aggressively, and I tell you what, if you're thinking about drive a championship, he needs all the points that he can possibly muster. He's obviously very quick here at Mugello, and he's equally quick coming on to the back of Ryan Elliot now. And Elliot, with all that ballast on board, is a bit of a sitting duck. Oh, they're going right into the first corner. No, they're not, because Brennan just thinks better of it. Elliott keeps hold of that second place, but there's a hung out to dry there is McIntyre. Been bumped onto the grass on the outside. Brennan going up the inside now as well, but he's not going to keep hold of that 4th place. McIntyre just running really wide again to try and carry that. So much momentum. Door banging left, right and centre, and I think that was the classic hung out to dry manoeuvre as McIntyre goes back through on Brennan, who slots just in behind Bugner's back with a bang as well.
He is indeed. I think for me, driver of the day as well, definitely the running is Scott Bugner. First round out, he's really mixing it with the pace of these top lads. Incredibly impressive drive. Really good respect there from Jordan Brennan. He could have quite easily, tucked it round the outside of Jack Mack, possible collision into the next corner, but instead brake checked himself, took himself back in. Real race and respect there for me. Ryan Elliott there, you could see real karting expertise there, not leaving any room on the outside, just leaving Jack right on the edge of the curb, and Jack Mack doing very well to keep composed and gather the car and not spin it off on the grass.
Yeah, just in case anybody was forgetting who our leader was and forgot what they looked like, a little bit of a clip of Callum Newsham going around about 3 corners. But the problem is for Callum is we can't focus on him because there is this fantastic battle that you were talking about, that you said before, sorry, Dave. And I would put quite a lot of money on the fact that Callum Newsham doesn't give a damn, though. I think he'd rather have that first place, wouldn't he? Especially after the race 1 that he had and the race 1 that he had over at Misano as well. And if we have a chat with him after the race, which of course we will hope to do, he can always pull the sponsors then and say hello to everyone, can't he? Scott Bugner in 6th place. Well, I would say if he sort of gets a little bit closer, if he cracks maybe the top 5, hands down driver of the day for me. Sometimes I know Jack McIntyre has been fantastic this evening in terms of his driving, but when you just jump onto a grid out of nothing, it's very impressive to do what he's been doing. Is I think McIntyre and Elliott going through on a back marker there, just trying to keep their momentum up as high as possible without getting anybody else. But Bugner has had a hit. And Bugner's ended up with a crash with that back marker in the background, and it's just a shame that sometimes that can happen when trying to car through the field.
Yeah, it is indeed. We didn't exactly see what happened there. Really unfortunate that. I was going to say, for me, if Scott Bugner even manages to hold on to the position, it's an outstanding performance today. Jack Mack, also incredible driving to get through the field. For me, there's a good few drivers that's definitely in the running for this. But yeah, will it be enough to see Ryan Elliott hold on to this podium position, or will we see Jack Mack and Jordan start to work together and try and close the gap onto the back of Ryan Elliott? I can see the lap times are quite significantly faster than Ryan Elliott, so this is definitely not done yet. A minute left of the race. They're going to have at least 2 more laps left here. I tell you what, this is going to come down the wire, Jack.
It will indeed, yeah, and I think it has calmed down slightly, but to be fair, to do all 20 minutes at the pace that we've been doing, obviously there's going to be some kind of casualties in there. I mean, realistically, we had 6 drivers in the space that there are now 3 drivers for quite a lot of this. Scott Bugner is now under attack from Maxi Rurik, who's really trying to make a charge back to get as many championship points as he can under his belt as possible as well. And this is the problem, and Bugner now doesn't have someone to chase. He's now looking in his rearview mirrors, and the first, when he let the position go to Callum Newsham, he was looking in his rearview mirrors, didn't quite get the braking zone. Then when Zelos went through, he was looking in his mirrors as well. Now he's a sitting duck. I don't think it's going to be the fact that he'll miss his braking zone. I say sitting duck, actually. He's done really well in defending that one. And obviously, Maxi Rurig, a little bit of weight on board, maybe just hurting him at the end of that straight.
Yeah, but yet again, Scott showing his class and race, and advantage there for Maxi down the start-finish line straight with the toe. And Scott just putting his car in the right position there, that allows, Maxi to either go the long way around or have to tuck back in. So, yet again, great racecraft there from Scott. That has seen him progress through this grid, and he's more than deserved. I know you have the reverse grid pole, but this, top 10 result both times in both races in Newcomer Championship, incredibly impressive. It is really not easy to do what he's done. I don't want to just sound like I'm going on about it, but honestly, the grid is that stacked of real good quality drivers. To get 2 top 10s is incredibly impressive. And what the world's happened here, Callum Newsham's dropped out of first place with his 4.5 second gap. Dan Zelos has gone through. Dan Zelos is on for possibly the win here on the very last lap. Did Callum Newsham put his brakes on to get that sponsorship coverage after all?
Well, if he's chosen the sponsorship coverage, he's potentially given up a race win, hasn't he? Because Dan Zelos has just nicked it, and I think we'll agree. We have to announce it before the race is over for Scott Bugner with the driver of the day. Callum Newsham going for a move now around the outside of Dan Zelos. It's a huge mass of momentum going through the final corner. This is going to hurt not only Newsham, but potentially Zelos as well, as Ryan Elliot's trying to get up the inside. McIntyre is going to be too close to the line. I think Zelos is going to have it across the line. Callum Newsham in second place. He lost 4.5 second gap. It is Dan Zelos to take the checkered flag here for race number 2 at Mugello. Callum Newsham in second place. Ryan Elliot in third. Jack McIntyre fourth. Jordan Brennan fifth. Scott Bugner, driver of the day, into 6th place as well. A fantastic performance from him. But what on earth happened there to Callum Newsham? Well, I suppose we'll have to get his take on it when he comes into the interview room.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it wasn't even me commentating there, and I'm out of breath. I was off my seat and everything there. Couldn't quite believe how close that was. 4 drivers on the very last corner, all with a chance of taking the victory. I mean, I cannot quite believe what I've just witnessed.
I think if the start-finish line was any further up the main straight, I think we would have had a very, very interesting 3-way photo finish, wouldn't we? But Dan Zelos, I bet he can't believe his luck. To be fair, he did fantastically well to even get into 2nd place and hold that 2nd place. But then all of a sudden, Callum Newsham coming into screen, he must have thought, no, not surely, not a race victory from this. It's, he was probably very, very happy with 2nd place. He'll be absolutely elated with 1st, and can't wait to have a chat with them, to be honest. They will be dragged into the commentary box really rather quick. In fact, Dave, they're already here, so let's have a chat to Dan Zelos. He's on his cool down lap, but I can't wait. Dan, that was superb from you in the end. How did it come about from your perspective?
I'm quite shocked, to be honest. The first half the race was staying out of trouble, and then trying to settle down into a good pace. We could see those quick guys were coming from the reverse grid, so it was really keeping your head down and trying not to lose too much time battling. But I was smiling my head off coming home in the 2nd, and then somehow I've come home with the win. So commiserations to Callum, because he drove that race flawlessly throughout. So, but yeah, I'm really happy with the win.
Absolutely, yeah, and I suppose you don't have much ballast on board at all, did you? Did you really feel like that was a major advantage in the sort of moves you were pulling off and the pace that you had today against the other people around you?
Yes, I had quite a bit more weight than Ryan. Ryan had a great battle in both races. I think especially down this very long straight, the weight is obviously going to hamper you a little bit, and up the hill around the fast double right. So I think that definitely helped me a little bit. But again, I didn't get to do any racing in the first round, so it was great to get very close and tussle in these great cars, and yeah, it was great.
Fantastic. Well, a last little question, I suppose. What's your hopes? Because like you said, you weren't really involved with the first round. What's the hopes going towards Imola and Portimao then? Are they circuits that you've done before? Are you enjoying the car? Are you hopeful that you can convert more good pace and practice to race victories?
I'm hoping so. They're tracks I haven't done ever before, and I'm still kind of learning this car. I've gone quicker in every single session out, so I may need to put a little bit more time out of work and a little bit more time into my simulator practicing, and hopefully we can get on the podium again next week.
That's what we love to hear. Take more time out of work and put it into sim racing. That is everything, isn't it? Dan, before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a quick shout out to?
Yeah, I'd love to give a quick shout out to Devanti Tyres and Riggs. They're my partners in this championship, and Devanti have supported me since day one. So yeah, thank you very much.
Shouting out an opposition rig on VRRC, controversial, but we'll let you do it, Dan. Congratulations on that victory, and go and enjoy the rest of the night. And that was Dan Zelos, Dave. And I tell you what, I was going to go to the driver of the day, but I think we'll let you have a chat to Callum Newsham, because it was something, it was a big event, wasn't it? Him losing that 4.5 second gap.
It was indeed. So we will go to Callum and see he's actually on his dad's profile, on Dave Newsham's profile. But I believe that was because at the last minute you've had a change to your dad's sim. You've gone over there, so you're on a foreign simulator, and you're still bringing home fantastic results. But we have to ask what incurred when you lost the 4.5 second lead.
Yeah. Well, my screen just completely froze for about 2 seconds there, and I was like, oh no. And next minute I'm in the blooming gravel.
So unfortunately, a rather big tech issue there played a rather big hamper, but still an outstanding result, especially when you've just gone and jumped on a different simulator that you've been practicing on all week, and then you found yourself this high up. You can't be looking too unfondly on that.
No, honestly, I thought I was going to struggle, because I was really struggling to get used to this sim. It's completely different to what I've got. But yeah, I'm happy with how it turned out today then.
Yeah, well, we were actually commenting saying, you were that far up the road and you didn't really have any screen time. Unfortunately, the sponsors won't get really much airtime, but actually ended up with dropping back down to second. But is there anyone you would like to shout out before we go off here and we look at your beautiful car on screen?
I'll shout out to the Newsham Nutters that are watching me, and North Scott Vending Services.
Well, spot on there, Callum, and yeah, you've definitely kept your championship hopes alive here at round 2, and we're looking forward to seeing what you can do in round 3.
Yes, thank you.
I love having the Newsham Nutters. They appeared in a couple of the streams that I used to do with Callum and Dave driving, and they're always entertaining in the chat. That was Callum Newsham in second place, clearly blaming his dad's setup for the fact that he lost that first. No, I'm kidding, obviously. We're going to jump to have a chat with Scott Bugner, I think, because he's the driver of the day, and I was going to do him after the first place, but obviously there were sort of mitigating circumstances. But Scott, your first time in the sim, hopefully you're there, your first time in the championship, sorry, not in the sim, obviously, and 2 top 10 positions. You must be buzzing with that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it actually. They're a bit of a handful to drive and getting used to, but I started to really get into it sort of halfway through the second race, but I made a bit of a mistake coming out of the first complex and put it in the gravel and lost about 3 positions. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it, and I'll look forward to next week.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, what's been the sort of biggest learning curve, I suppose? Because obviously you're jumping in with a load of drivers who have already done at least one race, maybe 2, and obviously the third one, and you were holding your own in second place, weren't you? Maybe you didn't have the pace, but what was the biggest learning curve that you sort of take away from driving with those guys?
Run wide at turn 1. That's what cost me the most. I've just outbraked myself a little bit. It's just getting used to the rear end. I'm used to front wheel drive, so jumping into this, I only sort of signed up this morning or sort of lunchtime, so I only did about 20 laps practice. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it, and hopefully I can be a bit quicker for next week.
It's astonishing that you only signed up this morning, so good work. And that good work and the sort of last minute nature means that you have won driver of the day, and that means you win the Power Max valeting pack as well, which I'm sure Rich from VRRC will be in touch with you about. Before we let you go, is there anybody you would like to give a shout out to?
My dad, he's watching. He'll be excited after that, but hopefully when our season starts in real life, we can do as well and get driver of the day and a podium in that.
Is that Jackson Bugner who's in the chat? Is that your dad?
That's my little brother.
Oh, yeah, well, hello to your little brother at least. Well done, Scott. We'll let you go, and we'll have a chat with our third place man.
Yeah, is Ryan Elliot there, our third place finisher?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, he is. And to be fair, you know, I mean, have you ever seen a finish line straight with 4 drivers, possibly with the win? I mean, what an end to a race, Ryan.
A little bit disappointed, to be honest. Could have had that win. Got a little tap from the rear when I saw them two. Obviously, I can't remember which way around, but I think it was Dan defending from Callum, and I tried to set myself up best as possible, and someone tried to go up the inside of me, and just, it was only a slight bit of contact, but it just killed my run. But I mean, max weight against people with, you know, nothing essentially at the front were less than 10 kg, most of them. I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to quickly ask as well, you know, obviously 30 kilograms, you had the most weight there out on track. I mean, was it about half a second you thought that you were maybe missing out the pace of the car? Was it what you thought was going to be, or did the weight hinder you even more so in the race?
I mean, I'd like to think I was on par with everyone who was, you know, a high weight. Like, for instance, you know, I was faster than Max Edmundson, quali, and only just behind Callum, which at the time were the two closest people to us in terms of weight. But yeah, just lacked that little bit. It wasn't my favourite track. Imola, also not my favourite track next round, but you know, at least now people like your Jack Max and that have got a bit more weight behind them, so should bring it a bit more even for me.
That's definitely the next thing to touch on just before we go. I mean, you've managed to hinder yourself even further more going into round 3 with maintaining maximum weight there. But yeah, as you said, Jack Mack is now up into second place in the championship with second place weight. So going towards Imola, as we can see on the stream there, you know, it's going to be incredibly close going forward into round 3. What's your expectations with the way things are going?
Similar sort of thing, just set myself up well for the last round. Just got to send it and see, really. I'm not one to purposely sandbag. I'd rather just go out there and give it my best in every single race, and if I end up finishing, you know, first, I'm first. If I'm last, I'm last. It's just how it goes.
Well, congratulations today, Ryan. It was another fantastic point haul for your championship hope. So we'll let you get some rest and see how you come out fighting for round 3.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Send it and see. I feel like that deserves to be on a t-shirt, doesn't it? I love that little motto. Well, Dave, we're going to have to probably wrap up things now, aren't we? Because obviously we've come to the end. We've had all the interviews. What I would say is probably one last, if Rich is there, he's currently in the live broadcast booth, one maybe last little sentiment from himself, head of VRRC as well, on how tonight's gone. I can't imagine he'd be disappointed with the racing he's had on offer.
That was alright, wasn't it? Second race was mental, absolutely mental. Yeah, really enjoyed that. Loved race 1. It was really good. Obviously, really exciting at the end of the race with Jack catching up to Jordan there. But oh my God, that reverse 10 grid for race 2, that really put it in there. Brilliant.
It definitely did, yeah, and obviously it was showcasing the close action that the VRRC championships bring you, doesn't it? A League of Champions it's all about that, isn't it? It comes with different tracks, different cars, different drivers taking advantage, and I think today even people like Scott Buckner jumping in right last minute, Jack McIntyre obviously doing fantastically well. There's just stories up and down, isn't it? And that's what makes the League of Champions so special.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, we've constructed it to try and make it as challenging but also as close and as fun as possible, hence having the success ballast, you know, so we don't get somebody that runs away with the wins and keeps things as level as we can. But I mean, these guys, I mean, you know, the quality throughout the grid, you know, has been fantastic. The racing tonight, although there was a couple of different nudges here and there and everywhere, but the quality of the racing was fantastic. But yeah, really looking forward to the rest of that. And obviously we've got the academy starting soon as well, so if you're new to sim racing, or you are, you know, if you consider yourself to be mid to the back end of the pack and you want to get quicker, well, we're starting up our academy sim racing sim coaching program, where you get the benefit of getting mentored and coached by our pro race drivers, but also, you know, we help you along the way and choose different cars, different tracks to give you a bit more to learn about to get quicker in a sim.
Yeah, just before we obviously round out the stream, I mentioned it right at the beginning when we plugged the academy. You've chosen 4 very different cars that all teach you very different disciplines about racing as well, haven't you?
Absolutely, yeah. What I wanted to do was go with obviously something with aero, but not too quick. So we went for the F4 car. The Caterham is just, a fantastic car to drive, full stop. Very light, very nimble, but also, extremely difficult to keep in a straight line. Then the Audi TT, fantastic car, but also adds in the push to pass as well on the Audi TT. So a little bit of strategy that you're going to have to start learning and how to use that and where to use that. Very
front-wheel drive as well, isn't it?
It is the only front-wheel drive, but it's very similar to a touring car in the way that it handles. So really pleased with that. And then the good old faithful MX-5, which is an absolute perler of a car. And we've chosen there's 4 different championships, 6 rounds in each championship. And we've chosen tracks that are going to really test the drivers, but we keep the same tracks through every championship, so the drivers can feel how the different cars handle on the different tracks, and we can give them some coaching as well as we go through. So each championship there'll be a coaching session with one of our pro sim racers, and we'll also have a Q&A session with some of our pro race drivers in the Discord chat as well each week. So we're really trying to reach out to the community within sim racing that want to get quicker but don't really have maybe the funds to go and pay for some pro one-to-one coaching, or have the ability to go or know who to go to. So if you want to get quicker in sim racing, come to us and we'll sort you out.
Yeah, the sort of thing that definitely I could have done with right at the beginning. Otherwise, but having said that, I might not have ended up commentating. So, some things work out for the best, don't they? But it's certainly a very interesting and fantastic idea. And hopefully there's lots of people out there that think, that applies to me, or that applies to my brother, or to my sister, or whoever it is. Maybe they're just someone who they know someone who wants to get into sim racing, and they can jump on the Academy Championship. Good luck at Thuxton, that's all I can say for that one. But the rest of the championship looks awesome.
Yeah, Thruxton. I mean, obviously, the tracks that we've chosen are very different tracks as well. Going for some very, and again, because of those different tracks and the different cars, you have to learn different techniques of how to drive a car on a track. And obviously, keeping those tracks across the different cars teaches you how to drive those individual cars. But we've got Tight and Twisty, we've got Cadwell Park, we've got Thruxton, which, as you know, is extremely fast and terrifying. Yeah, that's the one. So I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to getting this going. I've got a couple of really good guys. Scott Thorne and Tom O'Farrell are looking after that championship for us at VRRC. So really looking forward to getting people on board. Come and join us. Come and join the VRRC Discord. You do need to be a member, but that is literally starts for as little as £3 a month if you want to be a member. And there's a small entry fee for each championship, just 20 quid. But when you actually look at what you're getting out of it, you're getting the racing, you're getting it broadcast as well with commentary, you're getting the coaching from the pro race drivers, you've got the private coaching that we're going to give you as well, and you've also got the Q&A session. So it's a bit of a nominal charge. We needed to put something in there to cover our costs, but yeah, looking forward to it.
Absolutely fantastic, Rich. Thank you very much for jumping in. We're probably going to round out the stream now, I imagine. Dave, any last words from yourself about the championship so far? We have now hit halfway, which is amazing to say, isn't it, really? Going in towards Imola and Portimao.
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep it short and sweet. Basically, the championship is looking incredibly tight. Incredibly tight going into the last 2 rounds. And, if next week is anything to go by, if next week is anything like what this week's been like, then I tell you what, I cannot wait.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rich gave a little bit of a shout out to Tom O'Farrell there as well. He's been on the cameras. Forgot to mention him at the start, but he's done a fantastic job as well with the broadcast. I'm sure you'll agree. My name's been Jack Oliphant. I've been joined in the virtual commentary box by Dave Marshall for the AOC Gaming League of Champions Season 2, Round 2 of the Ginetta Championship. We'll see you next week for Imola. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Between the two of them. The inside of Coates. Barker gets too heavily involved. And that's Whitehead and Coates.